Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
We are an inclusive faith community
seeking to live out the loving, just, and generous way of Jesus.
We are participants in a long tradition
that's less concerned with doctrines and dogma that demand total agreement,
but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others.
What unites us is a growing awareness that life is precious.
That we are made by love in order to love.
This community is comprised of and affirms the entire human family.
Regardless of race, age, creed,
physical abilities, marital or economic status,
gender identity, or sexual orientation.
So, if you're curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
if you're joyful and have come to celebrate,
if you are uprooted and have come to belong,
welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Hey, Crosspointe, happy Easter to you. We're so grateful that you've chosen to share in our online celebration today. For those of you who participate with us online each week, the best we can tell, you're among hundreds and hundreds of people across the world who participate with us online every single week. And whether you're one of those regulars or you're tuning in for one of your first times, or you're traveling, or you're just under the weather and you decide to join in from your phone, your computer, or your TV, however you find yourself watching in this moment, we're really grateful that you did. And we really hope that today will be an encouragement to you. We view all of you who participate online as a treasured, important part of the Crosspointe community and part of how we show up in the world together. It's why we don't simply put a camera in the back of the auditorium in North Carolina and pass on a live stream of the service in Cary, because we don't ever want you to feel like you're simply observing another community's experience. Instead, we create this unique online experience each week specifically designed with you in mind. It's why we also offer various groups and other ways to participate in Crosspointe in online formats, because you're a valued part of Crosspointe and who we are together. If you'd like to learn more about Crosspointe, you can check out our website at crosspointe.org. You can follow on our social media on Instagram or Facebook. You can also click on the word e-news at the very top of our website, and you can sign up to have a weekly email from Crosspointe sent to you that will contain some encouragement for your week, as well as share what's happening in our community. And then lastly, as always, if you want to help fund who we are and what we do together, you can go to crosspointe.org/contribute or use the QR code on your screen to find the easiest way to do that, because Crosspointe doesn't exist without people like all of us leveraging our generosity together, trusting we can have a greater impact together than we can on our own. Thanks again for being here today. Whether you're in Arizona or Minnesota, California, New Jersey, Florida, North Carolina, Egypt, China, Bosnia, Canada, Brazil, or wherever you are today in the world, we are so glad you've joined in. Happy Easter. You're loved.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. And I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Don't you know, butterfly Stars when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Our freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. And I'm feeling good. Oh, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
When the world's as cold as stone, feels like you've got no place to go. Lift your head and call my name, and I'll come running like a freight train. Sometimes people do you wrong, make you feel like a sad song. Lift your head and call my name, 'cause brother, I've been through the same thing. Don't let the darkness get you down. Love will turn your life around. You think you're lost and then you're found. Don't let the darkness get you down. There's a sunrise up ahead. I know you're tired, but you're not dead. There's a fire in your soul. Oh, you're burning brighter than you'll ever know. Don't let the darkness get you down. Love will turn your life around. You think you're lost and then you're found. Don't let the darkness get you down. I will be there. I will be there. Whenever you call me. Whenever you call me. I will be there. I will be there. Don't let the darkness get you down. Love will turn your life around. You think you're lost and then you're found. Don't let the darkness get you down. Don't let the darkness get you down. Love will turn your life around. You think you're lost and then you're found. Don't let the darkness get you down.
A poem entitled Under the Ground by Drew Jackson. Life is always happening underground, the place life has foretaken. finite minds cannot take in that the belly of Mother Earth is indeed a womb. Entombed in the soil is the pip of a new Eden. Only the seed that has fallen into the pit can burst through into the morning dew to announce to weeping eyes that a new day has risen. A day in which the voices and stories of women are believed, their word received as good news, and the men have no problem following them and learning how to believe again. What I mean is this: the world has been flipped on its head. Heaven has invaded hell, the spell of death is broken, and the doorway opened to a new way of being. It all begins with seeing that the darkness of our world is luminous, and in the humus of life is where we become fully human.
There's a valley where the trees stand tall and an icy wind blows. Trees don't speak, but they speak to each other of a people long ago. The soldiers came and took away their villages one by one. In the fury of that moment they felt, but could only silently look upon. There's a mountainside where sheep are grazing with their young. Sheep don't speak, but they speak to each other of the killing long ago. When the people came and sacrificed their children to the sun, and the fury of that moment they felt, but could only silently look upon. There is a hill near Jerusalem, wildflowers grow upon. Flowers don't speak, but they speak to each other of a crucifixion. Just because he said he was the Son of God. And the fury of that moment they felt, could only silently look upon. Every city bar brawl, every fist fight, every bullet from a gun is written upon the palms of the Holy One. Every city bar brawl, every fist fight, every bullet from a gun is written upon the palms of the Holy One.
At the beginning of the New Testament, there are 4 gospel accounts, each one of them written at different times for different communities by different people in different moments. And the overwhelming scholarly consensus is that the Gospel of Mark, the shortest one, was written first. It's even generally agreed that it was the source material for Matthew and Luke. And as much as you'd probably love to delve into the depths of scholarly Bible debate for Easter, let me tell you why this is significant right now on Easter and in this moment in time. Here's the first sentence then of the earliest gospel, the Gospel of Mark. It starts, the beginning of the good news, or that can be translated the gospel, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So right out of the gate, Mark kicks off with this promise that when I'm done, you will have the good news of Jesus told to you. And that raises a couple of interesting questions right away, I think, for wherever you find yourself on the faith spectrum, if such a thing exists. Questions like, well, if you believe that Mark's writing is divinely inspired, then isn't it safe to assume that when he's finished, it will have fully accomplished communicating to us the good news of Jesus? If you're on the other end of the spectrum and you're like, I don't think this is any more inspired than other literature, you would at least agree that what Mark wrote satisfied him. He thought he was doing what he set out to do in communicating the good news. So I don't mean this as a trick question. The end of his gospel speaks to the death and the burial and the resurrection story. That's how it ends. It includes Jesus' being crucified at the hands of religious and political power grabbers. It includes the burial in a tomb. And when it comes to the resurrection, the Jesus is no longer dead part, it reads this way. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might go to anoint Jesus' dead body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb and they asked each other, who's going to roll the stone away from the entrance of the tomb? They forgot a little detail in their plan. But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. Don't be alarmed, he said. You're looking for Jesus, the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He's not here. See the place where they laid him? But go tell his disciples and Peter, he's going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you. Trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. So that last section is verse 8. And for most of church history, Bibles will continue with verse 9. There's 12 more verses, about 200 more words after that. And in those extra words are depictions of Jesus confirmed alive by several disciples. Jesus rebukes the disciples who didn't believe. He speaks these black and white binaries about you're either saved or condemned based on believing the story. Jesus says that the true believers are going to be able to safely handle venomous snakes and drink poison. And then there are these assurances that kind of serve to reinforce some foundational doctrinal stuff. But here's the thing, and there's a little note in your Bible that says this. All that was added later. Decades later. And there's debate about those details, of course, but suffice it to say that the earliest copies of Mark's gospel and the early church fathers and mothers who talked about it, they don't have any record of any of that extra stuff. It just ends at verse 8. It just ends. What Mark wrote and called the complete telling of the good news, the first gospel in circulation in and around Palestine, after presenting Jesus' ministry, his love and his wisdom, all that healing and the courage and the kindness, the inclusion, and then the death, and then the burial. And then there's an empty tomb and a man, not an angel, a young man in a cool robe, standing there explaining to terrified women that you will see Jesus. No one had yet, but you will. Go into Galilee and you will see him. And then that last beat again. Trembling and bewildered, the women went and fled from the tomb, and they didn't say anything to anyone because they were afraid. And that's it. That's the end. Mark apparently put his pen down and said, that'll do it. Boom. The good news. The gospel. I did it. Empty tomb. Show's not over, but my book is. Roll the credits at terrified women deciding not to say anything to anybody. Now, of course, more happened because the only way you and I could find out about the women seeing the young man in the cool white robe and they're being afraid is if they finally told the story. They were the only ones there. Jesus resurrecting in the first place. I mean, Mark wouldn't have otherwise bothered to tell us the story of Jesus, one would imagine. But I want us to pay attention to how Mark originally brought his gospel to a close. There was for Mark no established Jesus is alive sightings, no confirmed witness testimony or assurances from them. No black and white doctrinal definitions about what it all meant and why it happened. There's just at the end, originally, a few people too overwhelmed to get involved, too afraid, and then this cliffhanger. Jesus' death is confirmed. In sometime way later, eventually, the cross, the comprehensible part, that became Christianity's symbol. But his resurrection, the big detail, the mystery, the vindication of Jesus' way in the face of the way of self-interested, destructive power, the very centerpiece of hope where God says, let all the other ways of being stay down. This is the way, this is the life that I want to put back on its feet 3 days later. The resurrection part, that part is presented as, go see. And there's something deeply important for us to understand in Mark's decision to end his story with a to be continued like this, because this is the exact invitation you and I wake up to every day. We want them and sometimes claim to have them, but we don't have any guarantees. Every morning we wake up aware that we don't have concrete, foolproof assurances that living the way of Christ is going to work out, that living the way of love and peace and justice in a world that loves slogans like love and peace and justice, but really struggles to live them out, and I am part of that world, that if we enter into that everything will be okay, that it's going to work. We don't have assurances about that. Mark's actual ending is our everyday beginning. He died, that part is easy to see, but he's alive, which means his way is still in effect. So despite the strangeness, the unanswered questions, the loose ends on what it all means, despite the wide open, puzzling vulnerability of it all, let's go into Galilee and see about keeping the story going again today. I mean, it really is easy to see why others came in later to fill in what must have felt like holes at the end of Mark's good news. I can imagine them saying, Mark, this isn't good news yet. You got to provide some solid answers. You got to give your ending a sense of certainty and payoff. You got to have people seeing Jesus in the flesh so that we can be sure. You got to have him laying things out clearly, black and white rules, guarantees, consequences. Mark, how the heck are we supposed to make doctrine for people to adhere to out of to be continued? People need concrete rules and formulas, and you gave us this open invitation. Honestly, I think this is what a lot of people want people like me to do right now. Like maybe especially today. Lay out with precision and clarity and exactitude what's going to happen, exactly what it means, how you can be part of it, how you'll get exempted from it. What are the rules? What's it all mean? When? Why? The same impulse that added that stuff at the end of Mark, added these assurances and the clearer part, the certainty, the definition to the end of Mark. That's the same spirit that demands it from anybody that's teaching it or claims to believe it. And it's not because people are bad. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's a function of our humanity that we want to resist and eliminate uncertainty and ambiguity in exchange for something we feel we can understand and predict and control. And there's good reason for this. We get scared. By the way, the pollen, can you hear it? You should feel it. We get scared. We get scared about little things, existential things. We worry, we fret, we become tense, we brace in a million different ways as we move through our days and weeks. Uncertainty on the basics only makes all that worse. In psychology, there's been a term in use since the 60s that describes our resistance to uncertainty. It's called ambiguity intolerance. If something is ambiguous, it's uncertain, it's abstract, it's inexact, it's got too many different, maybe even conflicting interpretations or ways to get at it. Ambiguity describes the uncertainty of strange, inconsistent information, nuance that requires so much patience to sort out. This can be applied to people, our culture, morality, world, faith, whatever it is. Ambiguity intolerance is the measure of resistance we have to things that are uncertain, the inability to tolerate too much of it. And that resistance is an anxiety. It takes the form of an anxiety. We feel threatened by it. It actually registers in our brain and as in our nervous systems as something dangerous, something that's threatening pain. Some of us get excited when somebody says, get in the car, I'm going to take you to a big surprise. Others of us would be like, I'm not getting in that car until you tell me exactly what we're doing, where we're going. That latter group has a feeling of threat coming from the missing information, and that has to be resolved. They can't move until it is. So somebody practicing more tolerance of ambiguity and uncertainty, they are able to stay more curious and open, more flexible, able to incorporate new, unresolved, strange, even contradictory data experiences. They have the spirit of acceptance and adaptation. They want to stay a student. But if the intolerance of uncertainty is the main mechanism, it's become the main tool we use for making decisions, for believing and behaving, we have a completely different experience in the same world. Because in this case, when we feel this fear in any measure about something uncertain, we begin behaving out of a fight or flight response. It's just human nature, which means we pounce on things that are too puzzling or too nuanced. It's things that are uncertain because it needs to be resolved now. We have to make it fit. We bring to it a rigid, or try to turn it into a predictable framework. And if we can't do that, we just avoid it altogether. We fight it or we flee from it. And I'm not talking about making reasonable requests for more information to make a decision. We do that all the time. I'm talking about this habit, this pattern of responding in fear, which dictates a quality of life to us. And many of us, we don't realize the extent to which we're operating on a very sophisticated fear response. We struggle to tolerate anything that challenges our preference, that challenges our clarity, our formulas, that makes us have to rethink, that says black and white thinking isn't going to get it done. It can show up in avoiding anything that cannot be easily categorized or known. But then it can also show up in insisting, I already know everything. I've got nothing left to learn. This is why you get freshmen in college who are having a crisis of identity and faith when they first get started in the world, because they cannot any longer avoid what they sort of have been taught to avoid their whole childhood. Or they take it upon themselves to explain to their biology and sociology professors and all the other students, this is how the world actually works. And they take it upon themselves to be defenders of the faith or their worldview. In both cases, intolerance of uncertainty, ambiguity, new or complicated information, and intolerance or fear of that has become so a part of their wiring that the real world has become a thing to fight or flee from. And in this and countless settings, if we come across something that doesn't fit, that challenges us, that pushes against our preferences, that seems to break our rules, proves to us that our easy answers are actually super deficient, that nuance is demanding we rethink something, if it disrupts predictability or our sense of security, it brings us a choice. Do we act primarily from the fear and threat response, or do we try openness in faith? And these two columns aren't about, a good person and a bad person, smart or stupid, believer or unbeliever. The line between these often runs through one person. It's more real than that. But what is it? Why is it valuable to Mark to leave the story he calls good news with the biggest detail of that good news left kind of loose and unresolved? Why might he have chosen to end his good news with an open invitation to participate in the way of Jesus without any of the rigid doctrinal scaffolding underneath it that other people added later? Is it that God gets angry unless we convince ourselves of incredibly hard to believe things? That's what I grew up believing, that believing difficult things was the point, that good people believe unbelievable things. That's what makes us good. Bad people question those things, unless, of course, they're questioning other religions' unbelievable things. Then they're good for that. It's got to be more than that, right? What is the actual value of embracing ambiguity? Why grow in faith and tolerance of the uncertain? Why? Well, one big reason is because the degree to which we feel we have to have clarity, absolutes, conformity, order, control, that is very much the degree to which we're not going to be able to grow in love, humility, peace, kindness, understanding. These are things that are necessary to live rich, joyful, connected, healthy lives. A disciple named John once said, "Perfected love drives out fear." Not much in life is that binary, but it's really helpful. He put it that simply. In a very real sense, we're either choosing the way of love and all of the thriving that comes with it, or the way of fear, which is constricting, small. And it's not some intellectual decision, like some easy agree-disagree thing. John is framing the way of love, casting out the way of fear. That this is a statement about how we can choose to operate in all of our dealings with reality and people. But it's only the long game of love's way that fulfills our humanity, that unites us in peace and freedom. The way of fear, expressing itself so often in an intolerance for uncertainty, for the gray. It might not even feel like physical fear. Sometimes it feels morally superior, but it has predictable traits. According to the research, some of the key characteristics, beside the felt need for certainty, some of the key characteristics of ambiguity and tolerance are the felt need to label and categorize everything. The inability to allow both good and bad traits to exist in the same person, and all that nuance. The rejection of the unusual or the different, or things that fluctuate too much, just on appearances. No. The premature selection of a solution in an uncertain situation, and then rigidly maintaining and defending that selection. Perhaps something in there feels familiar to you. Again, we're not describing an evil person or a stupid person. It's a part of each of us that comes out in some measure. But the more our intolerance, the more these traits dominate our lives, which means the less we can allow the world and people and God to be what they actually are. Because we're putting all of our emotional energy into fleeing what doesn't fit or pouncing on what needs to be changed so it will fit. You can't love in that state of mind. And I can imagine that the connection I'm making between Mark's originally abrupt, almost cliffhanger gospel and the lack of love that results from low tolerance for uncertainty, that connection might be difficult for some of us. But any of us who have suffered a family member's inability to be kind to us because of who we are or what we believe or don't believe, because who we are stopped fitting with their preferred world or their sense of tradition, those of us that have had that, we recognize that connection. Any of us that know what it's like to be cast out of others' communities so that they can have peace, no longer invited into their discussions, into their collaborations and mutuality. We've been cast out so that they can have peace, so that they can be comfortable. We know exactly what this connection is. Anybody who has seen how someone can look at another human being and because their behavior or beliefs don't make sense to them, reduce them to something less than a human, to expendable extras in a movie about themselves. Those folks see the connection I'm making easily. Anyone who has observed another's stubborn refusal to change their mind or their behaviors, even toxic, ruinous beliefs and behaviors, not because they lack sufficient reason to do so, but because doing so would be too disruptive to their lives. Anybody who knows and has seen that, they know the connection I'm making. It sounds like an overstatement until you actually start to see how it plays out for real people. There's a violence. There's an internal violence in our demand that people and the world become what we can better understand, better sort out, or else. There's violence in it. There's violence in conquering, in the relational ultimatums, and the threat of exclusion of those whose existence or their beliefs somehow change, or threaten to change ours, or challenge our formulas or our understandings. How many of us were threatened at a young age with eternal torture for questioning or disagreeing with the established thought? This was very much the violence of other people's feelings about threat and fear. How many queer children have been forced to pretend a self, forced to convert to a different self in order to receive love and inclusion? This is violence. This is the experience of the violence of others' fear. And on the tail of those traits associated with low tolerance for that which doesn't fit our preferred formulas, there are secondary traits that directly affect not just ourselves, our community, a nation. The research lists out that we become dogmatic, rigid, uncreative, punitive, aggressive, ethnically prejudiced and bigoted, and even authoritarian. Some studies suggest that if we're less able to tolerate uncertainty and nuance in life and lives, the more likely we are to be authoritarian or attach ourselves to authoritarians, those people who promise to force the world back into a shape that we used to like, that we would prefer. And all of this does violence in some measure to human dignity and to our shared reality. It severely limits, even eliminates, our ability to love in the ways and the rhythms of the resurrected and resurrecting Jesus. And 15 years ago, after a message I did on loving the stranger, loving your enemy, all that stuff, some people came up to me to thank me for my words. And this one guy came up to me and I thought he was going to do the same thing. But what he said in response to my words about really loving neighbor and enemy, really leaning into the mystery of Christ's way in a world that often pushes against it, this is what he said, and this is an exact quote. "This all sounds good in here, preacher, but at the end of the day, I trust my M16 and a tank." And do you know why I remember that verbatim? Because I hated that he said that. And do you know why I hated it? Because part of me agreed with him. A couple weeks ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking to reporters about war, and he said, in this world, it's not enough to be moral. It's not enough to be just. It's not enough to be right. History proves that unfortunately and unhappily, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan. Because if you're strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good. Aggression will overcome moderation. So, he said about the need for violent defense, you have no choice. And then he went on to say, you're blind if you see it any other way. Blind if you think that the way of Jesus, loving your neighbor, the foreigner, the stranger, loving your enemy with all that creative spirit that's been put in you, and not the simple destructive spirit that requires no creativity, boldly loving those you disagree with learning to see where they're coming from and to be seen by them, to move as though you see that we're one human family that has unfortunately bought into the fearful illusion of separateness. You're blind if you think that way is any match for Genghis Khan, those given to bloody conquest and the elimination of anybody who doesn't fit. Just an unbelievably uninspired, uncreative, unseeing way for a leader to speak, let alone lead. And yet, the part of us often tempted to be ruled by the way of fear might see his point. Because the way of love leaves a whole bunch of loose ends and lost control. Sure, it would be nice to have a solid sense of self-protected certainty, wouldn't it? Give up on the inspired creativity and the nuance that only wisdom can appreciate, and just create rigid categories and tools and just get rid of whatever and whoever doesn't fit. Give up on the work of understanding and incorporating diverse opinions and perspectives. Just shut it all out or shut it all down. Give up on the labor of trying to birth a better, kinder, more inclusive world, not just for ourselves, but for every one of our siblings. It's tempting because what if we're the only ones trying? What if we're the only ones doing it at the family gatherings or in our industries and offices? We're the only ones staying with hope, remaining in the way of love and peace, even when it would seemingly take less effort to just settle for black and white. You're in, you're out. What if we're the only ones waking up every morning, heading to school or to work or into our politics or taking up the mantle of leadership somehow? What if we're the only ones saying yes to Mark's cliffhanger of, I know it seems like ugly self-interest and hopelessness has won. They do have the loudest voices and the most immediate common sense reasoning sometimes. They have the loudest shout down voices. They have the tanks. But get up and go into Galilee again, you'll see. I can only tell you that over the years, I have had this question come up more than I care to admit to myself, where I wake up and I go, am I doing this? Am I an idiot? Please don't answer that for me. I'm being vulnerable. I don't think I would have said M16s and tanks, but all too often in my relationships to other people, I often feel like, all this love and hope stuff sounds good in here, Steve, but at the end of the day, I trust my grudges and my snap judgments. At the end of the day, I trust my made-up mind and the story I've already told myself about you. This all sounds nice in here, Steve, but at the end of the day, I trust my conclusions over anybody else's perspectives. This is all well and good, but I'm going to stick with my defensive posture, and you can keep your hope. And when I've given into this, resisting the invitation to stay open and to keep going and to keep seeing, I have every time experienced a kind of poverty. And so here's what I want you to know. In the 2 decades of being part of this community, you all have continued to teach me something eternally valuable. If the cross is the symbol for the death of Jesus, that's the comprehensible part because everybody dies one way or another, then what is the symbol for the resurrection? This isn't a doctrinal point I'm making. What I've learned over these years by seeing your love and by receiving it, by observing it and being a recipient of it, by watching your lives and having the privilege to live mine alongside many of you, I think the symbol for the resurrection is you. It's us. You have shown me again and again that despite our lack of absolute formulas, the resurrected way of Christ is what calls to our deepest hearts and invites us out of bed every morning forward into something better. Your lives and your faith continue to make a compelling case for the mystery of hope, faith, love. You have shown me again and again that love is better than apathy and hate, that forgiveness is better than bitterness and resentment, that there's healing and joy on the other side and even during some of our worst moments. You have shown me again and again that sharing your time and resource is better than nervously storing up for a future you've only learned to fear. Many of you, you've shown me that peace is something we can radiate regardless of the circumstances. You've shown me that hope is better and more true to our being than self-protective cynicism. Over and over and over, you have made the way of Jesus of Nazareth far more beautiful and inviting than any attempt to control, catalog, shut down, reduce to manageable formulas. Over and over and over, you have inspired me to, with all the unanswered questions and chaos that human beings cause, wake up every morning and head into Galilee to see what continuing my part in the story of love driving out fear might do. And so, my friends, as we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus today, in this moment in time, we do so not in a spirit of guarantees or formulas or even approved doctrine to adhere to, or else, but we do so as those willing to say yes again to the wild, courageous, beautiful, long game of love, and we enter into that together. We do so aware that the voices of fear, of control, of overpowering and eliminating anything that requires too much effort to understand, these voices are the loudest. They take up all the airwaves. They loudly demand our attention and agreement in every sphere of life. Yet together, we remind one another that the story, the way that God resurrected, that one is truer to our hearts. It's the quieter, humbler, more vulnerable one. And in this world, it will be difficult to recognize it as a powerful one, but it's the one God put back on its feet 3 days later so it might keep going. And so, my friends, in the name of love and peace and justice, the resurrected Christ, let's keep showing up for each other. Let's go on into Galilee again today, and in that way, we will find him there.
'Cause brother, I've been through the same thing. Don't let the darkness get you down. Love will turn your life around. You think you're lost and then you're found. Don't let the darkness get you down. There's a sunrise up ahead. I know you're tired.
If you would like to know more or get connected to Crosspointe, go to crosspointenc.org. If you're in need of care or assistance, go to crosspointe.org/care. And welcome home.